You're probably wondering why we're here, and I think two reasons really. One is we were in the gift industry. Emma and I, for 23 years, ran our business, and I'm a cartoonist and designed product, and Emma turned the product, or turned my images into product, and then we did our fair share of Birmingham's and Top Drawers and all those other shows. So one is we belong to you. The other, we've been supported by the gift industry personally, by Michael and Isabel and others getting on their bikes and joining us on the various different rides. But also, and the reason we're really here is to help you, or to help you to help us spread the word. And we talk about talking to networks or throwing pebbles into ponds, because by communicating with groups of people or dropping a pebble in, the ripples can spread out. So whether you wish to be involved in what we're going to talk to you about at the moment, or whether you simply can help spread the word, better informed, that's all going to help these young men and women who are, at the moment, being flown into Birmingham International and then spending 14 minutes being driven across the city to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, where their journey or their path to recovery begins.
Last year, 1,284 injured servicemen and women were flown to Birmingham's Selly Oak Hospital with life-changing injuries. And for this ordinary couple, a chance visit sparked the beginning of an epic journey.
We walked into a ward full of 30 or 40 young men who were terribly injured, and I think that was the moment.
I'd never been to a hospital and met anyone who's had amputations. I found it quite shocking, actually, incredibly moving, very emotional, and I thought, my God, you know, here are we're fine, we've got nothing to worry about. I think it was a moment we felt we've really, really got to, sorry, I always get a bit emotional about this bit, we've just got to do something.
You saw in the film that in the summer of 2007, Emma and I decided to form a charity. And in fact, we didn't really. What we decided to do was just to do something. We were hearing about the casualties in Iraq and Afghanistan. I had been in the army a very long time ago, and we had a son who was thinking about going into the army. But our main motivation was a simple desire to do something. Our feelings were not motivated by any political or military jingoism. They're simply by walking around a ward and meeting a Fijian called Derek, who had his legs blown off above the knee and he couldn't move, and he could just talk to us by moving his eyes, or by meeting Andy, who'd been shot through the arm at Musakala, having fought for 56 days, expecting to be fighting or holding a place for 2 days, and had ended up by eating maize, which they'd found in a store, and having to milk the goat in the compound, and lost 2 stone of his body weight before he was finally shot in the arm. Or Craig, whose mouth was completely wired up and could only eat through a straw where his mother had sat for 8 weeks feeding him yogurt. Or whether the other boy who had been hit by a rocket and the shrapnel had come down on him and shredded his body, so he had patterned scar tissue on him, looked a bit like a giraffe. And we came away from that visit just simply saying, I don't know what we can do, but we must be able to do something. And the amazing thing was, we talked to other people who seemed to feel the same. And I think if we all remember back to 2007, we remember the controversy about whether the wars in Afghanistan, or certainly in Iraq, were legal or not. And what we were all focusing on is the rights and wrongs of war. And what we'd sort of lost touch with is it's not really about the rights and wrongs of war. It's about the young men and women who serve their country, whether, frankly, they're serving their country in Afghanistan or Iraq or in Great Britain. To me, I don't really mind. I mean, what I'm concerned about is a young boy who can be somewhere between 18 and 25, and sometimes up to the age of 30, who simply feels that he needs to join the armed forces because he wants a job or he wants adventure. And just when he's at the top of his game, he goes along a road, maybe to try and help a child, and bang, his legs are blown off. And then everything in his life that has gone before stops, and he has to reevaluate and think about where he's going from then on.
We both thought we've got to do a terrific fundraising event, we've got to raise a huge amount of money, and that was the moment. We just never looked back.
And Help for Heroes, a fundraising charity for our wounded, was born. The first event saw 276 people hit the road to raise money for a swimming pool at Headley Court, the military's rehabilitation centre.
Well, I think we had the most incredible selection you could possibly wish for in a bike ride. We had obviously the team from Headley Court, who were completely inspirational and utterly brilliant, and humbling again to see them, you know, get on their bikes and go up the same hill as we did.
And not only did the event raise £1.3 million, for some it was an extremely personal journey. The bike ride was a great opportunity for me, and it come along at just the right time. I hadn't even been blinded a year, and I had a lot of thinking to do and a lot of tests to myself to prove to myself that I could still do these things and that I'm still a man. I'm still manly, do you know what I mean?
It was just about anyone and everyone, but the main aim was to raise a lot of money, which they all did.
But this was just the start.
The key to Help for Heroes, when we set it up, was that we would ask people to do their bit. So it's why I'm here today. It's not a question of just saying to you, could you write me a cheque as you leave? It's a question of you thinking how you can help improve the lives of some of these rather special young men and women. And that you can do that by, we'll talk about it later on, by whether you take your company and turn us into your charity of the year, whether you do a commercial partnership, or whether simply you decide to squeeze your lovely body into Lycra and come and ride for 350 miles across France, or you want to climb Kilimanjaro or do something similar, or just simply have a pub quiz. But the vast majority of the money that we have raised to date, the vast amount, has not come from the big corporates. It has come from the individual. It's come from your shop floor. And that, I think, is the big message we all need to remember, that it's the pub quiz, it's the simple getting together, it's the leg shaving competition, it's the silly dancing in Marks and Spencer's, you know, to some silly tune, all wearing silly hats and everything else that happens to raise 500 quid. It's that. It's hundreds of thousands of decent people in this country getting out there and doing something, providing money, and then giving it to us, and us working on literally a shopping list of things that we want to achieve with that money. And it's non-political and it's non-critical, it's just simply about the blokes.
We've had the rugby match at Twickenham, that's 52,000 people came, £1.4 million raised. Then you've got the sort of the rugby players and the sportsmen, so that they're starting to spread the word. And you see Lewis Hamilton wearing a wristband, and Lawrence Dallaglio, Martin Johnson and so on. And then you've got the people who are thinking about James Bond, and it's just, it really is magic. I mean, how it's all just sort of spread. Every
day we think, well, OK, maybe the money will dry up today, and then Amanda, who runs all our donations, says, no, it's been another great day, you know, 50 grand came in today, and we can't believe it. I mean, it's literally been an average of between 20,000 and 30,000 a day since we started.
What we're doing is great big lumps of money squirted at places which really need it.
When we started Help for Heroes, we obviously had our background in giftware to get us going on the fundraising and running the charity. So it was quite a start from 7 products I think we had on day one, which I managed to scrounge by ringing up all our UK suppliers saying, we need a mug, we need a mouse mat, we need a tie, we need a lapel pin, please help. And because we'd had this wonderful relationship with our suppliers for many years, miraculously we managed to fill our warehouse full of good British stuff actually at the beginning, which was fantastic. We didn't know how long the charity would be around for. Our trustees at the time said, you know, go slowly. You may only be around for 6 months, maybe a year, seemed to be the view at the time. So I didn't really get the green light to get my giftware business going, if you like, till mid-2008, when the trustees said, actually, Emma, I think you're doing all right so far. Green light, crack on. And I did, and since then we've probably got around 400 products now ranging anything from the iconic teddy bears, which everyone loves and they've done incredibly well. The wristband, which we all wear with huge pride, is another symbol of the charity, and we've sold certainly over 1 million to date, or 2 million rather, I should say. It varies enormously what we sell. I look at the family of a serviceman, which obviously is a family of anyone in the United Kingdom. It can range from children to grandparents. So what I wanted to achieve was affordable, well-made stuff that we could sell in vast quantities to ensure that we could run the charity without dipping into any of the donations. Because one thing I have found since I've taken up cycling and going up Kilimanjaro and things like that, every second of every challenge that you do not want a single penny to go to overheads. You want all of that money to go to the cause. So our remit really is to cover the costs as much as we possibly can. And at the moment, I'm very proud that we can do that, and we're 104% efficient, which is it's a huge target, but we'll keep going with that. The other revenue stream that we have is our commercial participations we have, and many of them have come from some of the giftware suppliers from Birmingham. So it's been great to go back to do the trade fair in February on the other side as a buyer and form some really good relationships. Some of them are very small companies. We've got Sonia Spencer might do some cufflinks. We might have St. Nicholas do some Christmas decorations. We've got the Danish company Agard who are exhibiting. They will give £15, for instance, for every bracelet that they sell. That kind of thing, it all adds up. The thing that I've learned is all that experience we had running a very small business has been absolutely invaluable, and I don't think many charities have had that fortune, if you like, to learn the hard way. We've certainly learned a lot of the very hard business lessons over the years, but we've been able to sort of consolidate it all and onwards and upwards, really. But our projection, well, last year we turned over nearly £7 million, and we were able to donate £2 million back to the charity. So that's my target again for this year.
And let's not forget the X Factor, which is well on the way to raising over £1 million to improve the lives of our injured troops.
I am very, very proud and honoured to be a part of it. I have never seen such a public display of affection, and you make me very proud to be British.
I think we are incredibly proud of the way people have just taken up this idea and run with it and done such a brilliant job doing it. I mean, we feel kind of humbled, really, because I think all we did is put our hand up and said, right, we want to help. Does anyone else want to help? Great.
To people who started these charities, then I just have to say thank you. Thanks that you're there, because if you weren't, then life would be so much harder. It really would.
How can you help? We have any number of opportunities, really. First thing you can do is just say, I understand this, I want to do something. And the simplest thing is you go back to your company and you say, let's make Help for Heroes our charity of the year. We have a team back at Downton, where we come from, in our industrial estate. And we have a team of corporate people. You make yourself charity of the year. You do something wacky, safe, legal, but wacky, fun, enjoyable, team bonding. You all decide you're going to go and walk the North Pennine Way or something, and you raise a load of money, you give it to us, and then we spend it wisely. Or you can do what's called restrictive funding. So if you particularly want to get involved in, say, sponsoring the Quick Reaction Fund, that really floats your boat. Or we're now doing a thing called AeroMed, which is a lovely one, because every single injured, wounded or sick person that comes back from across the world with the RAF, we now provide an AeroMed pack. £1,500 gets you an MP3 player, blinds, things for your ears, hoodies, blankets, and a whole bunch of stuff that when you're sitting in the back of a C-130 or a C-17 and feeling pretty miserable about life, to be given a bunch of stash and know that someone's thinking about you is pretty powerful. You can give us some money and say we'd like to sponsor somebody. So on a bike ride, typically, we're looking for £2,500 for somebody to come on a bike ride. And this year, we're taking 35. 20 of them are Brits, 15 are Americans. but they're all being sponsored. We've got a great opportunity coming up in December, which will be announced later on this year. We're doing a rugby match at Twickenham, and we're going for a match between the Northern Hemisphere, managed by Lawrence Delalio, taking on the Southern Hemisphere, run by Sean Fitzpatrick. And we're going to bring a team of legends and contemporary players up from the Southern Hemisphere that need sponsoring. So they need hotels, they need flights, they need all that sort of stuff. Then we need sponsorship for the actual Twickenham match. We've got to cover all the costs. Great opportunity. We've got a headline sponsor, but we're still looking for lower sponsors, or you can simply take some tickets. And lastly, Tedworth House is the building that we are focused on in our area down in Hampshire, where we're one of our recovery centres. We've taken it on a stately home. We took it on the 18th of February. We're getting it to be fantastic by the 29th of June. And we're putting £17 million into this building, and we are literally turning it from being almost a derelict into something incredibly smart. And then during the course of next year, we're building a new wing on it, which will be named after Jimmy Heselden, who was one of our greatest sponsors, but who died. And we're giving the name Jimmy's Wing to this house, to this extra building. But every room has got to have someone's name on it. And so it's going to have, the Phoenix Centre supported by somebody, the library supported by somebody else. So again, wonderful opportunity if you want to put your name on it for perpetuity. And a smallish bedroom is 15 grand, a big bedroom is 20 grand, the library's 100 grand, the Phoenix Centre's £500,000. Take your pick. The Army want it to be a recovery centre, which means that we'll have 20 guys going through on assessment at any one time and a further 30 on residential. But we are pioneering the idea of bringing all the charities together there as well, because we think that if you take an amazing building and you put some wounded servicemen in there, you will also attract ex-servicemen who will think, actually, life's not so good. So we're pioneering this idea of the one-stop welfare shop. So in the building, we will be asking up to 22 different agencies, NHS, DHS, local employers, charities, to be there. And that's the vision for Tedworth House. We'll finish with one more little film, if we may, which sums up the last 3.5 years.